Na 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 na, Pink History.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pink History, the podcast where we celebrate extraordinary women through stories that are as vibrant as they are inspiring. I'm your host, Andrea, and today I'm thrilled to take you on a journey through the life of one of my absolute favorites, Frida Kahlo. Now, when you think of Frida, you might picture her bold unibrow, her colorful attire, and those unforgettable self-portraits that practically leap off the canvas. But there is so much more to her story than just her iconic look. Frida was an artist, a rebel, and a passionate soul who transformed her pain into powerful art, and her legacy continues to inspire millions around the globe. Before we dive in, if you're curious to learn more about the details of her life and see some amazing photos of her art and home, you can always check out the Casa Azul website at casahistoria.org or head over to the Frida Kahlo Foundation at fridakahlo.org. These online resources are a treasure trove of information and really help you get a sense of the environment that inspired her work. Today, we're going to chat about Frida from the very beginning, her early life in Mexico, the experiences that shaped her, the unique challenges she faced, and the brilliant art that emerged from it all. So, let's get started by stepping back in time to the colorful streets of early 20th century Mexico, where Frida Kahlo was born on July 6, 1907 in Coyoacán, a vibrant neighborhood in Mexico City. Even as a little girl, Frida had an innate sense of curiosity and a flair for the dramatic, a spark that would later burst into the bold strokes of her paintings. As we journey through her story, I'll share some of my favorite anecdotes, sprinkle in a few online resources for extra details, and celebrate the incredible legacy she left behind. Ready? Let's jump in. Frida's story begins in a warm and culturally rich Mexico. Born in 1907, she grew up in a house that was full of life, tradition, and a deep appreciation for art and storytelling. Her home in Coyoacán later became known as La Casa Azul, or the Blue House, a place that today is a museum where fans of her work can see her personal belongings and some of her early pieces. For those interested in planning a visit or just browsing through photos, check out Casa Azul online at casahistoria.org. Her father, Guillermo Kahlo, was a German photographer who settled in Mexico, and her mother, Matilde Calderón y González, was of mixed indigenous and Spanish heritage. This blend of cultures would become a key influence in Frida's art later on. Growing up, Frida was surrounded by the rich tapestry of Mexican folklore, vibrant traditions, and the everyday hustle of life in Mexico City. I like to think of her childhood as a mix of sunshine, colorful festivals, and the occasional mischief that only a spirited kid could muster. Even though Frida's early years were filled with everyday joys of a Mexican childhood, playing with friends, exploring the neighborhood, and soaking in the beauty of her surroundings, they weren't without challenges. At a very young age, Frida contracted polio, a disease that left her with a lasting limp. Imagine being a child full of energy but having to contend with a physical limitation that sets you apart. Instead of letting it break her, Frida turned it into a part of her identity. She began to dress in long skirts and developed a sense of style that later became one of her trademarks. Her family, supportive and proud of their heritage, played a big role in nurturing her creative spirit. Both her parents encouraged her to explore her interests, and her home was filled with music, art, and lively conversations about the world around them. Frida's early exposure to art and culture was like fuel for her imagination. It wasn't long before she began to sketch and doodle, capturing the scenes around her with a passion that hinted at the genius to come. School was another important part of Frida's early life. Though she was a bright student, she often felt different from her peers because of her unique perspectives and physical challenges. Instead of fitting in with the crowd, Frida embraced her individuality. I like to imagine her in the schoolyard, notebook in hand, already planning out wild ideas for paintings and imagining a future where she could express every emotion with bold colors and daring imagery. One of the things that always fascinates me about Frida's early years is how deeply rooted she was in her Mexican identity. From the art, music, and even the local legends she grew up with, every aspect of her life was infused with the vibrant culture of Mexico. It's no wonder that later on, when she started to create her own art, Those influences would burst forth in the form of rich colors, symbolic imagery, and a profound connection to her heritage. If you're curious about the cultural backdrop of her early years, I highly recommend checking out some articles on Mexican folk art. There's so much to learn, and it really puts her work into perspective. And despite the challenges and the early brush with adversity, polio, societal expectations, and the sheer intensity of growing up in a rapidly changing world, Frida's spirit shone through. Her resilience and determination were evident even then, and those qualities would only grow stronger as she moved forward in life. Her early experiences taught her that beauty could be found in imperfection, and that every challenge was just another opportunity to create something extraordinary. So, as we wrap up this segment on Frida's early life, let's take a moment to appreciate the rich tapestry of experiences that shaped her. From the warmth of her family home in Coyoacan to the colorful streets of Mexico City, every memory, every lesson, and every small moment played a part in crafting the artist we now celebrate. And if you're hungry for more details about her childhood, there's some great online resources like Frida Kahlo Foundation website at fridakahlo.org that offer fascinating insights and rare photos from her early years. Now that we've set the stage with Frida's early life, let's talk about the moment when her creative spirit truly ignited. It was a terrible, unexpected event that left her with severe injuries, multiple fractures of her spine, pelvis, and leg. Many of you might be thinking, that sounds awful, and you'd be right. The accident was a huge blow, and it meant that Frida would spend a long time recovering, confined to her bed and facing constant pain. But here's where her story becomes so incredibly inspiring. Rather than just let this tragic event crush her spirit, Frida found solace in art. While lying in bed during her long recovery, Frida picked up a paintbrush for the first time. With no formal training, she began to express herself on the canvas, using vibrant colors and bold strokes to capture not only her pain, but also her dreams and emotions. It was during this period that she discovered her voice, a voice that was as raw and honest as it was beautiful and unique. I often imagine her in that small sunlit room, looking out the window and transforming her pain into a burst of creativity that would one day captivate the world. Her first paintings might not have been perfect masterpieces by today's standards, but they were filled with a sincere passion and a newfound freedom of expression. There's something incredibly moving about knowing that even when the life threw her a curveball, Frida chose to turn that moment into a work of art. And as her skills developed, so did her confidence. Her early works were deeply personal, a mix of self-portraits, symbolic images, and fragments of her inner world. They were her way of telling the world, this is who I am, and I'm not going to hide it. One fascinating aspect of Frida's early art is how much it reflects her love for Mexican heritage. Influenced by the indigenous art of her homeland and the vivid colors of the local landscape, Frida's paintings began to incorporate traditional motifs and symbolism. The bright reds, blues, and yellows that we now associate with her work weren't just aesthetic choices. They were expressions of her identity, her pride, and her connection to a culture that was as resilient as she was. As you might expect, Frida's creative journey wasn't without its challenges. Learning to paint while dealing with physical pain and the emotional toil of her accident required immense strength and determination. But it was precisely these challenges that gave her art its raw, unfiltered energy. Every brushstroke was a testament to her will to live, to create, and to defy the odds. And if you ever find yourself feeling a little stuck or uninspired, just remember that even Frida turned her struggles into something beautiful. And that's a lesson we can all take to heart. For those of you who love to dive deeper into the details, I highly recommend browsing some online galleries of her early works. By the end of this period in her life, Frida had firmly established herself as an artist with a bold, distinctive voice. She wasn't afraid to mix reality with fantasy, pain with beauty, and tradition with innovation. And as she continued to evolve as an artist, her work became a reflection of everything she was, complex, multifaceted, and utterly unforgettable. Now, let's chat about another side of Frida, her personal life, which was as colorful and complex as her art. Frida Kahlo's life was a whirlwind of passion, romance, and heartache, and these experiences seeped into every painting she ever created. One of the most famous and talked about parts of her life is her relationship with Diego Rivera, the renowned muralist. Their love story was intense, dramatic, and full of ups and downs. I like to think of it as a roller coaster of emotions, passionate highs, turbulent lows, and moments of laughter in between. Frida once described the relationship in a way that captured both its beauty and chaos, saying it was like a union of fire and water, impossible to reconcile, yet irresistibly compelling. Despite the challenges in their relationship, infidelities, separations, and the inevitable clashes of two strong-willed artists, Frida and Diego shared a deep bond that fueled much of her creative energy. Their relationship was both a source of inspiration and a well of pain, and you can see that complex mix reflected in many of her self-portraits. Even when her personal life was in turmoil, Frida managed to find humor and grace in the midst of it all, turning heartbreak into art and sorrow into vivid splashes of color on her canvas. Beyond her romance with Diego, Frida experienced many other aspects of love and loss that shaped her perspective on life. She faced numerous health challenges throughout her life, not just from the accident we talked about earlier, but also from ongoing medical complications that forced her to confront pain on a daily basis. Yet, remarkably, she never let these hardships dim her vibrant spirit. Instead, she channeled her experiences into her work, using each setback as an opportunity to express her inner strength and creativity. I always find it incredibly moving how Frida's art seems to mirror the complexities of her personal emotions. There's a raw honesty in her portraits, a blend of vulnerability, defiance, and a deep-seated passion for life. Even in her more somber works, there's a spark of humor, a wink at the absurdity of it all. It's as if she was constantly reminding herself and us that even in pain there is beauty, and even in loss there's a way to keep moving forward. Her home in Coyoacán, La Casa Azul, was more than just a physical space. It was a living, breathing canvas of her life, filled with bright colors, personal mementos, and the energy of a creative mind. It was a place where Frida could be herself, unfiltered and unapologetic. And today, if you're ever in Mexico City, I highly recommend checking it out in person or taking a virtual tour online. Frida's personal life, with all its turbulence and beauty, serves as a reminder that our scars and our joys are both integral parts of who we are. Her ability to transform her pain into art is one of the reasons her work continues to resonate so deeply with people all over the world. It's a lesson on resilience, in the power of authenticity, and the idea that in every experience, no matter how challenging, can add a unique hue to our own personal canvas. Let's take a moment now to reflect on the enduring legacy of Frida Kahlo, a legacy that transcends art and touches on everything from feminism to cultural pride. Frida isn't just remembered as an incredible painter, she's become a symbol of strength, authenticity, and a celebration of individuality. Her work has inspired countless artists, activists, and everyday people who see her as a model of what it means to live life boldly and unapologetically. Frida's influence is everywhere, whether it's her iconic images adorning t-shirts, posters, and even social media profiles, or the way her art continues to be showcased in exhibitions around the world. Her presence is undeniable. For those of you who want to dive deeper into her cultural impact, I recommend checking out online platforms like the Frida Kahlo Foundation and various art blogs that dissect her work in detail. These resources offer fascinating insights into how her style, her personal story, and the unapologetic approach to life has shaped modern art and pop culture. What I find truly remarkable about Frida's legacy is how it continues to inspire generations. Young artists, especially women, look up to her as a pioneer who broke all the rules and showed that it's okay to be different. In classrooms, art studios, and online communities, her work is celebrated, not just for its beauty, but for the powerful message it carries. A message of resilience, creativity, and the importance of embracing one's unique identity. Frida's art is also a celebration of Mexican culture, a vibrant, complex, and endlessly fascinating culture that has given the world so much beauty. Through her paintings, she paid tribute to her roots, blending traditional Mexican imagery with a modern, deeply personal sensibility. This fusion has resonated with audiences far beyond Mexico, and it continues to spark conversations about identity, heritage, and the way art can bridge cultural divides. Her legacy isn't confined to the art world either. Frida Kahlo has become a cultural icon, a symbol of female empowerment and the courage to live one's truth. Her bold style, her unibrow, her traditional costumes, her fearless attitude has inspired fashion trends and even political movements. It's a testament to the fact that when you embrace your true self, you not only create art, you create change. For those interested in the broader cultural impact of Frida, I found some fantastic online articles and essays that delve into her influence on everything from literature to social activism. A quick search on sites like JSTOR or even a browse through art history blogs can yield some fascinating perspectives on how Frida's work continues to shape conversations about identity and expression in our modern world. In reflecting on her legacy, I can't help but smile at the sheer force of her personality, a force that continues to live on in every brushstroke of her paintings, every poster and meme that celebrates her, and in every person who dares to express themselves freely. Frida Kahlo reminds us that our differences are what make us beautiful, and that sometimes the boldest acts of art can come from embracing the things that make us unique. As we come to the end of our little journey together, I'd like to share some personal reflections on what Frida Kahlo means to me, and I hope to you as well. Frida was more than just an artist. She was a storyteller, a rebel, and above all, a reminder that even in the midst of pain and adversity, there's always a spark of light waiting to break through. I often find myself inspired by her fearless approach to life. In a world that often tries to tell us how we should look, think, or act, Frida broke all the rules. She painted her truth with colors that were as bold as her spirit, and she never shied away from showing the world her inner self, even if it meant bringing the scars of her past for all to see. It's a lesson that resonates deeply within me, that our imperfections are not weaknesses, but rather the very things that make us who we are. Reading about Frida's life, whether in books, online articles, or simply gazing at her art, feels like having a conversation with a dear friend who isn't afraid to be raw, real, and unapologetically unique. I love that her legacy encourages us all to embrace our true selves, to wear our hearts on our sleeves, and to create our own masterpieces in the canvas of life. It's also incredibly uplifting to know that Frida's influence stretches far beyond the art world. Her image, her ideas, her passion continue to spark movements for gender equality, self-expression, and cultural pride. Every time I see someone boldly celebrating their individuality, whether it's through art, fashion, or simply the way they carry themselves, I can't help but think of Frida and smile. She taught us that with life, all its ups and downs is a beautiful mosaic of experiences, and that every little piece has its value. As I wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with a little challenge. Take a moment to reflect on what makes you unique, on the colors that define your own story, and on the small everyday acts of courage that light up your world. Frida's life is a testament to the idea that even the smallest spark can ignite a brilliant flame, and that our individual stories are what make history so wonderfully rich and diverse. For more on Frida's life, I highly recommend exploring some of the online resources I mentioned earlier. The Frida Kahlo Foundation and Casa Azul are websites that are fantastic places to dive deeper into her world, offering photos, articles, and fascinating insights that bring her story to life. Trust me, there's always something new to discover about this extraordinary woman. And now, as we bring this episode of Pink History to a close, I want to thank you for spending this time with me as we celebrate the life of Frida Kahlo, a woman whose colors, courage, and creative spirit continue to inspire us all. I hope that our chat today has left you feeling a little more uplifted, a little more inspired, and perhaps a bit emboldened to embrace your unique palette. Remember, every brushstroke in Frida's paintings tell a story of resilience and authenticity. Just like her, each one of us has a story worth telling, a story that adds to the vibrant tapestry of life. So keep dreaming, keep creating, and never be afraid to let your true colors shine. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through Frida Kahlo's world. If you enjoyed our conversation today, please consider subscribing to Pink History, sharing this episode with a friend, and leaving a review. Your support means the world and helps keep these amazing stories alive for generations to come. Until next time, I'm Andrea, wishing you a day as vibrant and inspiring as Frida herself. Stay bold, stay beautiful, and keep making history, one fabulous moment at a time. Take care, everyone.